Mercedes and the media have trashed Red Bull this week for potentially exceeding the budget cap in 2021. The consequences of a breach will be huge, but the FIA delayed its issuing of cost cap compliance certificates on Wednesday. Teams are demanding the FIA punish any potential cheating as severely as possible. But Lewis Hamilton has made an even bigger demand. Want to know what's happening with the latest F1 scandal and what the consequences might be? Then stick around for the rest of the video. Following speculation over the Singapore Grand Prix weekend that two teams, Red Bull and Aston Martin, may have breached the $145 million cost cap for 2021, the F1 paddock awaited eagerly for news from the series' governing body. The FIA was set to issue compliance certificates to teams who stayed within the $145 million limit on Wednesday following a full audit. But in a statement issued late on Wednesday afternoon, the FIA announced the certificates would not be released until next week. The FIA informs that the conclusion of the analysis of the 2021 financial submissions of the F1 teams and the subsequent release of certificates of compliance to the financial regulations will not take place on Wednesday the 5th of October, the statement reads. The analysis of financial submissions is a long and complex process that is ongoing and will be concluded to enable the release of certificates on Monday the 10th of October. No one doubts that the process is complicated and long-winded, but the FIA set this deadline for themselves. The fact that they've delayed the announcement by a week amid this storm of speculation is painfully unprofessional and embarrassing for the organisation. They have shown time and again this season that they struggle to stay on top of the weekly running of the sport, and there is rarely a race weekend where they avoid another controversy. As if the teams weren't upset enough already after Monza finished behind a safety car and Singapore's start was delayed because the FIA didn't want to make use of wet tyres. People have been calling for Matteo Binotto to go all season for the mistakes his team has made. Shouldn't we also be calling for Mohammed bin Sulayem to go for the mistakes his team have made? In the statement on Wednesday, the FIA also said, "The FIA reiterates that until it is finalised, no further information will be provided," the statement added. The FIA also reiterates that any suggestion that FIA personnel have disclosed sensitive information is equally baseless. This is an important point made by the FIA. The media have spent the week stoking a fire that was lit by Mercedes and Ferrari, and in the fire is the Red Bull team. We've read claim after claim that Red Bull made a significant breach of the budget cap. If this is true, then the consequences will be huge. Lewis Hamilton has already made his demands if they did breach the cap. But we haven't seen any evidence for these claims, and until the FIA releases the cost cap compliance certificates, there probably won't be any evidence. There are two levels of offence according to F1's financial regulations, a minor breach and a material breach. The dividing line between the two is 5% of the cap, or $7.25 million last year. It is believed that if any team is found to be in breach last year, the offence is likely to be minor. Potential penalties for a minor offence include a reprimand, deduction of Constructors' or Drivers' Championship points for the year in question, suspension, limitations on aerodynamic or other testing, a reduction of that team's cost cap. For a material breach, the possibility of exclusion from the championship is included. Basically, the FIA has free rein to punish a team as they see fit. One English newspaper claimed they'd seen a leaked document that said that Aston Martin had made the larger breach and was going to be docked 100 points for 2022 and 2023, as well as getting a fine and reduced wind tunnel time. We looked into that and couldn't find any evidence of the leaked document, and the newspaper is known to print some pretty questionable stories, so take those numbers with a pinch of salt. Or don't believe them at all. That's your choice. Since these rumours started circulating, Lewis Hamilton has waded into the conversation in an incredibly controversial way. He questioned Red Bull's 2021 upgrades and believes if Mercedes had matched them last season, it could have changed the outcome of the championship. Hamilton did not accuse Red Bull of breaking the budget cap, but amid all the rumours, he did as good as accusing them by admitting he'd been thinking about the issue throughout last season. The 7-time world champion believes the FIA must be transparent in their decision-making and back them to make the right decision. What I can say is I remember last year in Silverstone, we had our last upgrade, and fortunately it was great and we could fight with it, Hamilton said, speaking ahead of this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. But then we would see Red Bull every weekend or every other weekend bring in upgrades. They had, I think, at least 4 more upgrades from that point. If we spent £300,000 on a new floor or adapted a wing, it would have changed the outcome of the championship naturally, because we would have been in a better competition in the next race if you add it on. So I hope that's not the case. I do believe Mohammed and the FIA will do what is right with whatever they find out. The development of cars for 2022 began last year as well, so a lack of upgrades from the Mercedes team doesn't mean they'd run out of money to spend. They just chose to spend it on this season's W13, not last season's W12. It is a huge claim to say that an extra £300,000 would have made the difference last season though, and will only add evidence to the claims that Mercedes are being sore losers. No matter what comes out, for me, Toto Wolff with this harsh criticism is rather the sore loser who's not yet digested the fact that he lost the 2021 World Championship, Ralf Schumacher told Sky Germany. I think that's a shame. What is clear, however, is that the cost cap must be adhered to. If that wasn't the case, then of course there must be a penalty, he added. The basic structure has definitely been shaken. The FIA has to investigate itself, because it must not and cannot happen that something slips out. What is happening here is only damaging Formula 1, and only the world governing body itself can be to blame. Schumacher's point about the FIA is the most important part of this story, until we actually see some evidence proving that somebody broke the cap. The FIA are yet again damaging the image of the sport by their mishandling of their role as governing body. We've spoken multiple times about the potential of a split of Formula 1 away from the FIA, and if they continue dropping the ball, the momentum behind that will only grow. Sky Sports' Johnny Herbert said he could understand why Hamilton had said what he said, but thought it wasn't his place to make those comments. I completely understand what his thinking may be, but we're not accountants. We don't really know the whole issue that has really gone on, so we need to wait and see exactly what it is. With all of this going on, you would expect some strong words from the Red Bull team refuting the claims, and their top men have had plenty to say on the matter. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner says he is absolutely confident his team did not breach Formula 1's budget cap in 2021. Horner said, "We stand 100% behind the submission that we are below the cap." He said comments by his rivals were unacceptable and hugely defamatory, and he threatened to take further action in response. Horner accused both rivals of employing an underhand tactic to distract from the fact that Red Bull driver Max Verstappen could have clinched his second world title at last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix. Horner said the process of the FIA assessing Red Bull's accounts was ongoing and that the team were taken aback by the comments. He said, "The facts are that it is a private submission to the FIA. So how on earth can any team know the detail of our submission? How can any team know a team is in breach or not? We don't even know if we're in breach. We don't know until next week, until the process has been completed. So perhaps when these accusations are made, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And we take umbrage and extremely seriously the remarks that have been made. If Christian Horner is coming out with strong comments like that, then Helmut Marko is going to have something far more scathing to say. Marko's quotes are a constant source of controversy, but he may have gone too far this time, even by his standards. "It's a massive damage to reputation," he said. "Abu Dhabi is long gone. It's a bit strange that he still hasn't got over it." Wolff spoke to the media about how much he believes Red Bull have exceeded the budget by, with it believed to be around the $10 million mark. Marko wants to know where Wolff has gotten these numbers, with the Austrian convinced that there is a leak at the FIA. "It is more than surprising that Toto Wolff came up with these numbers," he said. He speaks of a massive overrun. There must be a leak somewhere at the FIA. This now goes beyond the usual political denigration. These are concrete and serious allegations. Formula 1 as a sport was doing so well at moving on from the 2021 season finale. The controversy of that race threatened to bring the sport down on itself. If a team is found to have breached the cost cap and it had an effect on the championship outcome like Hamilton claims, then the consequences need to be as severe as possible. If these claims are found to be untrue though, then Mercedes need to be punished for the damage they've done to Red Bull's reputation, and more importantly, the damage they've done to Formula 1's image by making these claims. Do you think Red Bull did go over the cap? And do you think it is right for Mercedes to be pointing a finger at Red Bull without any facts to back up their claims? We know this is going to create controversy, so let us know what you think down below. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.